It's a turnoff. You may very well have heard of a scenario that happened, it was on the news, so I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. There was an incident that did happen with the Church of God in Christ, and I respect them. And hey, listen, I was brought up, and part of my bringing up was in absolute holiness, obviously. And that's I even agree with what was actually even said. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you can look it up on the internet. I'm not going to go into any details. And I have the utmost respect, even for all that's been accomplished. What we have to be careful of, remember, it's not the what, it's the how. It's not the what, because I even agree in principle with what was being said. But it's the how that's important. Today's generation is different than yesteryear's generation. You could call yourself, even Paul said in 2 Timothy, when he was writing his letter to Timothy, he said that we are to reprove, we are to rebuke, and then we are to exhort. Right? So we are to correct, and then we are to sternly correct, but then we are to encourage. Fair. Now understand that you don't play with God. You call it like you call a spade, but you need to let God, listen, what the scripture says, it says some plant, some water, but it's God that gives the increase. In order for us as witnesses, as we shed light, we have to be careful that we don't go so far as to bring heat to the point to where we turn a person off. Amen. I was in a paint store just yesterday, and this man was talking. How many of you know that you can't participate in every conversation? Amen. I didn't know this man, and I don't know, I guess I just had a preacher thing all on me. I was just trying to get some paint samples. I was running errands. I was just trying to get some. I didn't have no collar on. I didn't have no pastor hat on. I was just, as a matter of fact, I had a Grizzlies hat on. It was just me in a pair of jeans and no collar, no Bible. I'm just standing there. And somehow it came out, I guess, that I was over a church and that I was doing something that, well, they asked questions of what happened. And so they just start asking questions before they know it. Then people always want to, as a preacher, ministers, y'all get this, as a preacher, people always want to talk about church stuff. I'm like, you know what? I can talk about a game too. I can talk about a movie. I can talk about society. But no, they won't talk about church. Okay, let's talk about church. And then you have to realize when it's a conversation versus a dialogue. And when it's a dialogue, you just have to, you just have to just kind of, back up a little bit. And so he started in on this diatribe about, preachers and I don't believe in this and this, that, and the other. And one way, if you ever want to, let me advise this for you. Let me help you out for free. If you ever want to get somebody up off of you, whether they are religious or not, whether they're believers or not, if they're just talking, you want to get somebody up off of you, you know what you can say? So, well, we just have to pray for them. Try it. Once when you say, you ain't got to say, you know what, I ain't going to get into all of that. Well, praise the Lord, we just have to pray for them. We are supposed to plant, somebody else may water, and then before you know it, God is the one that's giving the increase. Jesus even told the disciples as they were going out, it's not you that they rejected, it's me that they rejected. Right. So don't feel like you got to go in and get into a detailed conversation with somebody that's not halfway listening anyway. You got to shed the light, not bring the heat. Our job is to influence. We rebuke the enemy, but not the person. We think a lot of times that we're ministering to somebody, that we're giving advice and we're praying. 9 times out of 10, I don't care what the situation is, a person is usually got some sort of chink in their spirit. For the most part, they may not even know it, but they may say, you know what, I don't know if that's 100% right, but I don't know, okay, well, maybe nothing's wrong with it, and they go on. God will work on somebody. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to keep moving. If you work on them, and you convince them, and if they're not convinced in their heart, it's not going to stick. Amen. It's not going to stick. Notice how many people that you may have witnessed to, and all of a sudden you got them saved, and they saved now. And then next thing you know, they're going on back. They're doing something else. They're in trouble. Something happened. It's got to get down on the inside. They got to see it for themselves. Pastor, I just don't want them to get into that situation. I don't want it to take so long. Listen, God is the one that's bringing them along. God is the one that's giving the increase. God is the one that's taking the time that needs to be taken so that when it happens and they make the decision, it's going to stick down on the inside. I told him, said, before long, it ain't going to be long and you're going to be just running all over this church. And he said it kind of, scared him a little bit. You see what I'm saying? He didn't say that, but he just wasn't at that point. Y'all see what I'm saying? I'm trying to help somebody. Amen. And then that basically ended up causing him to not even want to go back and talk to anybody else from that church. Somebody understand what I'm saying? And I'm sure the young person didn't mean any harm by it, but we have to be careful in shedding the light. We gotta exercise some wisdom, because as God is working along in somebody's life, we don't want to be responsible for getting them back off track. Amen. And while they may not go out and commit suicide, they will say, you know what, I'm done with church folk for now. Right. People to me it's an excuse. My wife had to bust somebody out at the store the other day, and all of a sudden somebody was saying, you just get tired of folk in church and folk that talk to me and whatever. And she said, well, you ain't stopped eating, have you? Now, for those that know, while that's true, and that sound good coming from her, she got that from her mama. Well, we want to make excuses. Now, all of these issues, and then let's not even count the number of times when I went and got mad because they got my order wrong, and then I had to check myself because I didn't pay but $4 for it anyway. Somebody understand what I'm saying? But guess what? Here's the deal. That didn't stop me from going through the drive-thru. Guess what? I'll probably go through the drive-thru on the way home today. Y'all see what I'm saying? It didn't stop because they got my order wrong. Because I stayed in line and I get up there and they can't take no more orders. That didn't stop me from going through the drive-thru. Now all of a sudden when somebody said something that you didn't like in church, now you don't want to go to church anymore. Stop with the excuses. Voluntarily become a servant to reach all kinds of people. In other words, I'm doing whatever is necessary to reach everybody. You got to leave an impression first. Right? You got to look for the good in somebody. You got to smile. I tell kids that come for interview coaching all the time, you need to smile. They look at me kind of cross-eyed. I say, yeah, you need to smile. I said, because you're coming in here, you're looking for an interview, we coaching, we going through all this, and you got a mean mug on your face, and I'm sitting here wondering, okay, if I make this employee mad or something they don't like, do we have a problem? Same scenario. You're the one that they have to, that they're looking to. You got to find a way to connect first. A conversation, something in common, some common ground. Do something to connect before you move on to conversion. Somebody understand what I'm talking about? We as saints, as you shed light, not bring heat, we have to find ways to interest and then influence. Well, I'm not going to, I don't smoke anymore, so you don't have to smoke in my car. You don't have to let them smoke in your car. You don't have to let them smoke in your house. But if you used to smoke, you got some things that you can tell them that I could never tell them. Somebody understand what I'm saying? Amen. You don't have to all of a sudden go backwards in order to minister to somebody else. That's shedding light instead of bringing the heat. You got to be the first one to be able to show them that it's possible. They're listening to you. A lot of times, oftentimes, now I'm going to be honest, sometimes sin can be fun, right? Let's just be honest. When you sin it, some folk that were sinning, it was working for them. They were doing their thing, right? But a lot of times, after a while, anyway, it begins to, people don't want to, they may not know how, they may be having fun for a moment, but they may do the drug, and when they're coming down, whatever, they may sleep with all these women, but when they finish, it's hollow. Whatever the case is, sin doesn't show you that part. Right? So they already are wanting something different. They're trying to fill a void some kind of way. So all they need is for you to shed some light on how they can do that. I'm trying to help somebody. I'll come down stretch. I'm done. All right. You have to find a way to get their attention and then attract them. Last point, if you read the scripture, in the one we read, it says, I become just about every sort of servant there is in my attempts to lead those I meet to a God-saved life. In the New Living Translation, it says this, I fit in with them as much as I can. In this way, I gain their confidence and bring them to Christ. How many of you know that you got to find a way to get somebody's trust first? You're trying to do something with them that requires a relationship. but you haven't established the trust to build a relationship with them in the first place.
All right.
It takes time. I've never been a salesperson per se, but there's certain types of sales that are not like sales at Walmart, right? Where you go in and you sell somebody something, they leave with it. There's certain sales that take a long lead time. Real estate is a perfect example, right? You may meet with somebody, I don't know how many times, and show them I don't know how many houses before they finally are ready to put the name on the contract. And even if they find a house, then you got to go through and get the finance. You got to go through and get the paperwork. It's a long lead cycle to get to a sale. But then when they're committed, they're committed.
Right.
Same scenario. When you're trying to win somebody, it may take a couple of different times. It may take a while before you can finally begin to make a difference in that person's life. What am I trying to say here to you today? I'm trying to encourage you, particularly as you get ready to go and fellowship with some people. Some of you may be going to office parties. Some of you may be having some potlucks, and you may have to do a bunch of different things at the office that you really don't want to be bothered with, right? I get that. Then you have to go with family members, and they're going to be, they may be doing whatever. They may be listening to certain kind of music. They may be playing certain kind of games. There may be a cloud of smoke sitting there in the air. I get all of that. I understand all of that, right? But you still got to find a way to share the light. Think for him to have, $1,000 suit on, right? And he just looked like another preacher that's not spending money wisely, right? He said, you know what? But I've had people come to my church. This is him talking. I've had people come to my church and tell me that they saw me on TV because they were flipping. And they stopped because of the suit that I had on. And when they stopped because of the suit that I had on, then they started listening to what I was saying.
Right.
And then as they started listening to what I was saying, they eventually came to the church and started listening more. And as they listened more, they became members of the church. And as they listened more, they became active producers in the church. Someone understands what I'm talking about. Amen. All because they were flipping and happened to see what he had on. So what am I telling you? You need to go out and buy a $1,000 suit? Nope, I'm not telling you that. I wish I could, but I'm not telling you that. That's your choice. But I am telling you to wrap it right. I am telling you that when you present your life as an influence for somebody else, make sure your witness is wrapped up right. Make sure that when they see